Which one? On here.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody has enjoyed lunch. So, after food for body, now let us have sometime more food for mind. We start with the last session, and I request Lopon, Nitup, Wangchuk to present his paper. And after that, we will have some question answers. So,
Good afternoon to everyone, and I hope that I won't make you all doze off after heavy lunch. So, respected His Eminence Zamdong Rinpoche and Professor Shubhada Joshi, and all our distinguished expertise and scholars. So today's my topic is the you are the boss, you are the servant, exploring the psychology of Chitamata, the mind-only school of Buddhism in the Nyingma tradition. So the Chitamata, in Tibetan we call Semzamba, and Yogachara, which means like Neljor Chepa, which often translate as mind-only school of Buddhism. Is a profound philosophical system within the Mahayana tradition that asserts all phenomena are manifestations of the mind. In the Nyingma traditions of Tibetan Buddhism, Chitamata teachings leads us into the broader framework of Dzogchen, which we loosely translate as great perfections or great completeness, offering a unique perspective on the nature of mind and reality. These presentations explore the psychology of Chitamata through the lens of Nyingma teachings, drawing on the works of revered Nyingma master such as the omniscient Longchenpa, Nipam Rinpoche, and Patu Rinpoche, as well as exploring how Western psychology and science define the mind, comparing it to Buddhist understanding. When it comes to my presentation here, I have only mentioned about the Nyingma tradition because just by the Chitamata tenet itself, it is so extensive and kind of vast teachings that within a short period of time, it cannot be kind of explained or discussed actually, and that's why I have tried to kind of as being the Nyingma followers, I try to be kind of in this side. As well as here I include some Western psychology and psychologists such as like prominent psychologists Carl Jung and William James, and more recent researchers on consciousness and the neuropsychology such as Susan Blackmore and Daniel Goleman. So here, when it comes to the Western psychologists, I am not expertise in this field, but when I read their books, so I found that there are some quotes from them that which can be relate with our Buddhist psychologies, and then which are almost like close to our the Chitamata teachings. That's why I have quote here. Chitamata in Nyingma tradition. Nyingma traditions, which we call as the earlier translation school of Tibetan Buddhism, incorporates Chitamata teachings into its philosophical and meditative systems. While Nyingma emphasizes the ultimate view of Dzogchen, Chitamata serves as an essential stepping stone for understanding the relative nature of mind and phenomena. The omniscient Longchenpa, one of the greatest Nyingma master, elucidates this in his text, Precious Treasury of the Basic Space of Phenomena. All phenomena are the play of the mind, appearing yet devoid of inherent existence. By recognizing this, one transcends the dualistic grasp of subject and object. This quote aligns with the Chitamata view that external world is a projection of consciousness, a concept that Nyingma Master used to guide practitioners toward realizing the ultimate nature of mind. Further, here the great Nyingma philosopher, the Mipham Rinpoche, actually further explained in his work, Gateway to Knowledge. The mind is the creator of all appearances, the source of both samsara and nirvana. By understanding its nature, one can transform delusion into wisdom and suffering into liberation. So the main point here is about my title itself is you are the boss and you are the servant, right? When we talk about the boss and servant, it is not something that something like which is kind of supreme being or something like that. But here when I mention the boss, mind as boss, which actually I mean is that the creative power of consciousness. In the Nyingma tradition, the mind is seen as the boss because it is a primary agent in creating and perceiving reality. This is closely tied to the concept of same or ordinary mind, which generates the illusions of solid external world. The omniscient Longchenpa elaborates on this in his text, Precious Treasury of the Basic Space of Phenomena. The mind is the creator of all worlds, the architect of both suffering and liberation. By understanding its nature, one realizes that all phenomena are like reflections in a mirror, vivid yet devoid of intrinsic reality. Therefore, both external and internal phenomena appear to the mind in the dreamlike manner. They have no true existence, but seems to exist in all their diversity to the deluded mind. These appearances arise from mistaken habitual tendency and do not truly exist as independent entities, but are perceived as real by the mind. Thus, the mind is the root of all phenomena. Things like mountain and other appearances, which seems impure to deluded minds, are constructed by the mind, though they are not the mind itself. Mipham Rinpoche adds, the mind is like an artist painting the world with the colors of delusion. It creates the appearances of samsara and nirvana, yet these are nothing but its own manifestation. This creative power of the mind is both the source of suffering and the key to liberation. By recognizing that all experiences are mind-made, practitioners can begin to dismantle the habitual patterns that perpetuate cyclic existence. As it is said, by simply taming this mind alone, all other things are tamed. Therefore, since the mind is the source of all phenomena and suffering, taming the mind should be our sole concern. The effort to bring the mind under control is the foundation of all dharma. In this context, from the Western perspective, Carl Jung, a foundational figure in Western psychology, describes a similar understanding of the mind's creative power. He writes, the psyche is the world's pivot. Not only is it the one great condition for the existence of a world at all, it is also an intervention in the existing world. Likewise, William James, a pioneer of okay, hello. Again, the recent researchers, Susan Blackmore quote, the mind is not a thing but a process, a dynamic, ever-changing flow of experience, thoughts, and perception. The creative power of consciousness lies in its ability to simulate reality, to run off what-if scenarios in the mind before acting them out in the world. All these insights from Western psychologists align with the Chitamata understanding that the mind is the architect of our experiential reality. Now second, the mind as a servant, the transformative potential of awareness. While the mind is the boss in creating reality, it is also the servant. In that, it can be trained and transformed. Pati Rinpoche, in his classic text, The Words of My Perfect Teacher, highlights the importance of taming the mind. The mind is like a wild horse. If left untamed, it runs amok. But through the practice of meditation, it becomes a servant of wisdom, leading us to the realizations of our nature. Mipham Rinpoche emphasized the transformative potentials of the mind in his beacon of certainty. The mind, though the source of delusion, is also the gateway to liberation. By training the mind through meditation, one can transform ignorance into wisdom and suffering into bliss. The omniscient Longchen said that the mind is like a mirror, reflecting all phenomena, yet remaining untouched by them. By recognizing its nature, one can transcend the cycle of birth and death. In this context, it is very important to understand four terms actually. The four terms are like the grounds or basis of removal, the causal agents of removal, the result of removal, and the objects of removal. So here the ground or basis of removal is actually the Buddha element, or what we call as the Buddha nature, the essence, Nyingpo. And the causal agents of removal is virtue. Sometimes we call it as a kind of merit also, which leads to liberation, clearing the stains from the ground of removal. This represents the path. The result of removal is the immaculate Sugata Garbha, the actualizations of all enlightened qualities. The object of removal, or what must be removed, consists of the eight consciousness along with their habitual patterns, which are rooted in the universal grounds of various habitual tendencies. In the context of secret mantra, these four terms are called the ground of purifications, the agents or means of purifications, the results of purification, and the factors to be purified. While the terminology differs, the meanings remains the same. In this context too, the Western psychology also described the mind as something we can transform. Rick Hanson, in his research on neuroplasticity, highlights the brain's plasticity and capacity for change. The mind is like Velcro for negative experiences and telephone for positive ones. By consciously focusing on positive experiences, we can rewire our brains for happiness and resilience. Daniel Goleman also said that when the mind serves awareness rather than impulse, we gain mastery over our lives. This is the alchemy of emotional intelligence. The recent researcher Susan Blackmore also said that the mind is not the master, it is the servant of awareness. When we truly observe the mind, we see that it is just a tool, not the essence of who we are. Such recent psychological research is in concordance with the Chitamata view of the mind, that while it is a source of delusion, it is also the instrument of liberations. So, and then we need to understand the eight consciousness to understand how our mind is the source of delusions. At the moment, here we talk about the eight consciousness, and now when we talk about the Kunshi Namse in Tibetan, we say Kunshi Namse, and then it's a consciousness of the universal ground. So it is said that at the moment when we cognitive experience occurs in relation to an individual object, the mind that perceives it without distinguishing its object clearly is called the consciousness of the universal ground. The cognitive event that identifies the object as this or that, discerning its feature either roughly or in detail, is referred to as the intellect. Forms are perceived through the eye, and that perception is called visual consciousness. Similarly, sounds are heard through the ear, odors are detected by the nose, tastes are perceived by the tongue, and contact is sensed through the body. These are five sense consciousness. So I won't be reading all this, so I will move on to the next actually, the role of Chitamata in Dzogchen practice. So the role of Chitamata in Dzogchen is that while Chitamata is provisional teachings, we consider that provisional teachings in the Nyingma tradition, it serves as a crucial foundation for the ultimate view of Dzogchen. The Dzogchen goes beyond the mind-only perspective to reveal the primordial purity, kadak, and spontaneous presence, Nitup, of reality. The omniscient Longchenpa explained in his precious treasury of basic space of phenomena. The mind-only view is like a finger pointing to the moon. It helps us recognize that all phenomena are mental projections, but the ultimate truth is beyond even the mind itself. In Dzogchen practice, the insights of Chitamata are used to deconstruct the illusions of a solid self and world, paving the way for the direct realizations of the nature of mind. Mipham Rinpoche elaborates on this in his Gateway to Knowledge. The mind-only teaching is a skillful means to lead practitioners to the realizations of the ultimate nature of reality. By understanding that all phenomena are mind-made, one can transcend the dualistic view and realize the unity of appearance and emptiness. The psychology of Chitamata is not limited to meditation, but extends to everyday life. By understanding that our experiences are mind-made, we can cultivate greater mindfulness and emotional resilience. Mipham Rinpoche advised, when you encounter difficulties, remember that they are like dreams, appearing vividly yet lacking inherent reality. By seeing them as mental projections, you can transform adversity into the path of awakening. In a world that often urges us to suppress or avoid difficult emotions, mindfulness invites us to turn toward them with courage. As Susan Blackmore writes, meditation is not about escaping emotions, but about facing them with awareness. This is how we build resilience and find peace. Mindfulness teaches us to observe our emotions without being swept away by them. This is the foundation of emotional resilience. Together, these insights reveal a powerful truth. The true strength is not the absence of turmoil, but the ability to meet it with presence. Such an approach empowers practitioners to take responsibility for their mental states and use them as opportunities for growth and realizations. Patir Rinpoche offers practice guidance on integrating Chitamata teachings into daily life in his seminal work. The mind is the source of all happiness and suffering. By training the mind through mindfulness and compassion, one can transform even the most challenging circumstances into opportunities for spiritual growth. Turning toward our challenges, deliberate awareness does not just ease suffering, but reveals the hidden gifts within it. Our freedoms lies not in avoiding our pain, but in meeting it with clear eye presence. As Susan Blackmore profoundly observed, awareness is the light that dispels the darkness of suffering. When we bring awareness to our pain, we transform it into wisdom. Daniel Goleman also said that when we observe our mental fabrications, anger, envy, fear, without buying into them, they lose their grip. This is the heart of self-mastery. This synthesis of ancient wisdom and contemporary psychology reveals that freedom lies not in controlling external circumstances, but in mastering our engagement with the mind's creations. In conclusion, the Chitamata teachings, as interpreted within the Nyingma traditions, offer a profound psychological framework for understanding the mind's dual role as both boss and servant. By recognizing the mind's creative power and transformative potential, practitioners can dismantle the illusions of samsara and realize the ultimate nature of reality. These integrations of Chitamata into Nyingma philosophy and practice highlights the enduring relevance of these teachings for both personal and spiritual development. The insights of Nyingma masters, such as the omniscient Longchenpa, Mipham Rinpoche, and Patir Rinpoche, combined with perspective from Western psychology and science, provide a rich and nuanced understanding of the mind's role in shaping our experience of reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much for presenting a paper on a very important topic, the psychology of Cittamātra, and also discussing its relevance, comparing it with modern psychology. The paper is open for discussion, question answers.
It was very interesting comparative analysis of mind and consciousness that you presented. while referring to all the Western scholars that you were mentioning from psychology or psychoanalysis, a thought just came to my mind that in philosophy of mind also, if you can refer to the scholars like Gilbert Ryle, it will give a different dimension to your comparative study. Because Ryle does not discuss about mind in the metaphysical sense, but he connects it to a very different understanding, behavior aspect of human personality, and he gave behavioral analysis of mind. So if possible, just refer to Concept of Mind by Gilbert Ryle, and I'm sure it will give you some new avenue for comparison. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the information. So actually, I'm looking forward to study those also. But even yesterday's, right, when our scholars are giving their presentation here, so they were almost all of them kind of present their papers in Sanskrit. So I was really inspired to learn Sanskrit also actually. So that gives me kind of what to say, the interest in learning Sanskrit. So thank you for your information. So I will try to learn those things. Okay.
Thank you for the very rich presentation and bringing to light the connection between the Yogacara concept of mind and Dzogchen and how it is applied. But one point I wanted to ask you is, if you look at the key points you are making, one is the mind as a creator of our world, source of suffering as well as a source for liberation. The trainability of the mind and how through kind of transforming your mind you can gain freedom. One could argue these ideas are so basic to Buddhism that you don't need to really bring Yogacara or Dzogchen. Because, for example, if you look at Dhammapada or if you look at Udana Varga, those key ideas of mind as a master, mind as a servant, mind as a source of your own enemy, how self-mastery, through mastering your mind, you gain freedom. Those, one could argue, are very, very fundamental ideas behind Buddha's kind of conception of path to liberation. So what is that specific Yogacara dimension that you see as having a key role in Dzogchen's understanding of mind?
So here in Chitamata, so we said like the ultimate is actually the kind of mind, right? We believe that. And then it seems like in the Dzogchen traditions also, so we talked about all those, the Rigpa, right? Rigpa. And then it becomes very close to actually, and then the difference is that we in Chitamata we say like, okay, it is an ultimate, but in Dzogchens we don't really say that actually ultimate. It is not really kind of, even we say like, if there is the phenomena which is beyond nirvana, it is also kind of illusions and dreamlike, we say that. So that's why that the teachers and our Khenpos told us that when they give us teaching, so they said like, okay, the Chitamata seems to be like kind of very close to the kind of the way that Dzogchen teachings explain actually. So that's why I have tried to bring the, okay.
Since nobody is asking question, I don't want everybody to sleep. So, my question is, in the Mind Only School presentation, we say everything that you perceive is a result of awakening of your mental imprint or mental predisposition. There's no external existence. Now, can you please compare this with the Madhyamika's statement that things are designated by mind, there is nothing existing from its own side. So can you make some differences in subtlety of these two philosophical presentations? Because in the Buddhist tradition, normally we say the Madhyamika view is much higher than the Chitamata view. So can you elaborate a little bit comparing these two views?
Here the thing is that it is not like my experiential kind of the explanation. So intellectually, so it is like things are emptiness, right? So that from the perspective that emptiness, so is kind of like there is no something that we can grasp on, right? So in Chitamata, so the thing is that they kind of believe that the consciousness is the kind of ultimate. So that is kind of the difference here. So.
I'm sure that there must be many questions which are there in the minds of learned audience. But maybe the young scholar is there, and the scholars sitting in the audience know already the answers also to the questions. So they are not putting the young scholar into difficulty.
Thank you for that.
You know, when the problem of mind and body comes and is faced by any philosopher, whether it is in the Indian tradition or the Western tradition, it is a fact that we have a body, and it is a fact that we have a mind. And it is a fact that we experience sometimes the difference between, and we also experience the unity between the mind and body. You know, we have some scratch on the body, we immediately experience and then we exclaim in sorrow. So was that a mind's response? The question comes to us. So it's a tricky question. What is the relation between mind and body? And right from Descartes onwards in the Western philosophy, philosophers are struggling to find the answer. In the Indian tradition, however, the mind occupies somewhat a secondary position compared to the Vedic tradition, where Atman is given predominance. In Buddhist tradition, mind plays a very important role. And therefore, from the Buddhist tradition, especially Yogacara tradition, this particular paper is important. And similarities, you know, as Shankaracharya is sometimes referred as Prachanda Buddha. The analogy, mind is the theatre, simultaneous possibilities, it's the artist of our experience. Shankaracharya uses this analogy of the theatre, and the perceptions pass on, and so five sense consciousness which are mentioned. Again, the question is how these five consciousness are related to mind. Whether mind has different consciousness, and that consciousness is responsible for connecting it to the mind. The awareness regarding the suffering, the awareness regarding our pain, and that transforming into our wisdom, and the viewpoint is supported by some Western thinkers, is also some important reference which the young scholar has mentioned. So I wish young scholar all the best to go into further deeper readings, and looking at it from the perspective of modern challenges also, and the modern philosophers, and especially those who are working in the domain of mind, I always feel that the overlapping domain of knowledge is between psychology and philosophy. Unfortunately, in Indian tradition, whatever we consider as philosophy, we try to show it as psychology. It has elements of psychology, but suggestion to young scholars is that they may think in that direction and prepare separate separate topic discussions opening that what is the line between psychology and philosophy, and why is it that Indian philosophy tends to incline towards psychology. Actually, it is more inclination towards the Atman if we refer to Upanishads. It is not Atman, but it is definitely doesn't stop at Manas, even if we refer to the Buddhist tradition, which never would use the word Atman. So, such important areas need to be looked into. You know, we were preparing a paper on consciousness, we were preparing a paper on philosophy of mind for our MA students, and all that we were bombarded with the information and the writings by the Western scholars. And I made an appeal to my colleagues that please let us go all to the library and find out what is the Indian input for these particular topics and these particular subjects. And since this Institute of Tibetan Studies has very, very close ties with the Indian inherited knowledge systems, I'm sure that with the library which you have, you know, you have a fantastic library, which any university would like to have such a library. So with such ancient texts and the knowledge to understand and decode such an ancient text is here. Addressing the modern areas where Indian contribution has not come to the forefront will be a very, very important contribution to the heritage. And I'm sure that you all will agree that if it comes from institute like Tibetan Studies, our ties between India and Tibet will be still stronger, because it is the domain of knowledge which creates the bonds which remain forever. They don't die. The political ties may die, they may regenerate, but the ties with knowledge, they are forever. And we all are experiencing it. So let us hope to work in that direction. Maybe my colleagues from Mumbai University, though I'm retired, I still can have a dialogue with my colleagues in the department. Will be able to, because we are teaching a paper on consciousness studies and we are facing this particular problem, that how to gather and construct this whole thing in a proper perspective. So my colleagues in the Department of Philosophy will also collaborate with such projects. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here in the chair for a very thought-provoking field of upcoming combination of philosophy and psychology, and where a lot can be contributed by not only the Buddhist tradition, but the Buddhist tradition, the Jaina tradition, the Vedantic tradition. And I mean Vedantic tradition, not only Advaita Vedanta, but also Nyaya Vaisheshika and all of the other schools which call themselves as the Vedic tradition. So thank you very much for allowing me to chair this particular session. Now it's my job. I would like to thank, I'll continue, no? No? The session is over? Okay, okay. So I thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to chair this particular session. Even though small, very, very thought-provoking. Thank you very much.
Now this is the last session and concluding session, or sometimes we call it valedictory session. So in this session, the organizers have requested 5 participants to express their views on this seminar that has been going on for the last 2 days. So first of all, I would like to invite Venerable Tenzin Lagzom, please. The podium is
So we've had a very thought-provoking and insightful 2 days, learning about many different topics. And we first started looking at the nature of reality in the different Buddhist and non-Buddhist traditions. And then we moved on to looking at pramana. We know that in ancient India there was this very rich tradition of different philosophical schools having discussions and trying to understand what is the real essence of pramana. And then we moved towards contemplation and its application today. And for myself personally, it has been very, very insightful and very rich conference to come to learn more about Vedanta, Samkhya, Mimamsaka, Yogacara, Jain, and other Buddhist traditions as well. And one of our scholars here was just joking earlier that maybe next time we should look at the brain activity results of not just between Yogacara and Madhyamika, but maybe even between the different traditions as well, philosophical traditions. And usually when I've been looking at the different non-Buddhist schools and the different ancient Indian tenet systems, it has been just through books, right? And so, we read about them in the pramana texts and also in tenets as well. So to actually come here and get a more direct perspective from scholars who have been studying these traditions for so many years, and to get your perspective has been very rich, and it really kind of makes me imagine and think about what it must have been like during the time of Nagarjuna. And we're very close to the Nalanda Mahavihara here, so it makes me imagine what it must have been like, and we're putting the seeds for those kind of discussions and debate and interactions here during this conference as well to come about in the future. And I would also like to kind of express my gratefulness for His Holiness for bringing about this vision. We know that developing and learning more about the ancient Indian wisdom is really one of His Holiness's major commitment to really revive ancient Indian wisdom. So I feel very grateful that it's all because of his vision that this program has come to happen as well. And this is the inaugural conference for the Dalai Lama Centre for Tibetan and Indian Ancient Wisdom. And I think it's been such a wonderful program to set the seeds for the future of this centre. We're already having such great discussions and interactions, and this is only the beginning. So I really look forward to hearing more and look forward to seeing what happens in the future as well. And then lastly, I just want to, a reminder for myself and maybe something for you all to think about as well, that I think some of our scholars here spoke about this earlier, that whatever we do learn in terms of philosophy, we should also try to put it into practice as well. So maybe be able to bring about take these kind of intellectual learnings that we've learned and bring it into a way to transform our minds or soul, whatever you like to call it, but to improve ourselves so that we can be of benefit to sentient beings. So with that, I'd like to hand over to the next speaker.
Now I would like to request Professor Nataraju Adaras Balleji.
Namasabhai, Chairperson, Director of the Center, distinguished guests. Last couple of days have been very enriching in terms of thought-provoking sessions, good papers. Good that you gave me an opportunity to come and participate. Most of us have attended few hundreds of seminars across the universities. But these 2 days, the sessions, hardly there was a paper, where we felt that, we can walk out of the session or out of the hall. Most of the time, we take a break in between the sessions. Generally, professors are adepts in all that, how to. But we were sitting all through all the sessions. Itself is a testimony to the fact that you have thought about the names. You brought in people who have been working in the different schools of Indian philosophy. And that was a good beginning, good job done. And so a few points that came across my mind as I was contemplating last couple of days. It has been a, Vada Parampara. It is, whether it is inter-school or intra-school, within Indian philosophy, it's a huge tradition of a Vada Parampara. And this center, I hope, as a good research center, continues that tradition. So that's one point, and I wish maybe future we can have the kind of debates that you practice in within the boat, the tradition. I like the way when the students, take out the hand and then do it like this, You make a point and then they do it. It is a gesture. They stand and do it. There is a very, full of energy, that debatorial tradition. Whether that is Vada, Jalpa, or Vitanda, it's all right, but still that tradition of, we must continue. And that has been the, lifeline of Bharatiya Darshana Parampara. Within a school, as we were mentioning Vedanta, there is that intra-school debate. And across the schools, so Buddhist philosophy was never seen as apart from the Indian philosophical schools. It was very much integral to this thinking. That tradition must continue with the research center. On the international stage, also positioning Buddhist philosophy across the international universities is the most easiest thing. It's hard, to take Vedanta philosophy into academic universities. And what my observation has been that there is a lot of leverage when it comes to consciousness studies vis-a-vis philosophy of mind, vis-a-vis phenomenology, vis-a-vis, it is whether it is Professor Miri Al-Bahari, whether Professor Jonathan Ganeri, Stephen H. Phillips, everyone is into speaking about schools of Buddhist philosophy. So you have a wider, audience, academic, acceptance, and that also can be kept in mind. I'm talking about the coming up of this Dalai Lama Centre, His Holiness, and the wonderful vision. And obviously this center needs to integrate the learning of Sanskrit and Pali, without which, I don't know, any of the studies can go ahead. A comprehensive knowledge of Sanskrit, and then comes the knowledge of Pali with both the schools of Buddhist philosophy. That's again has to be. I wish you good luck for the upcoming library. Hope you would have, the manuscripts and also the books. Excellent museum is also about to come up. That's what we are told. I had a couple of suggestions that I shared with the one who is looking after that, how thematic, Buddhist philosophy-based themes could reflect into the museum, And translating books, as Professor Godavarish was pointing out, one of the books on pramanas, he was inquiring whether that's available in English or into Sanskrit, and the answer was no. And as Vice Chancellor, he has started a project at the Sarnath, I believe, Professor Samtenji, of translating books back into Sanskrit, the Tibet language books. That's another that we can look at for the upcoming center. And, it has been 2 wonderful days spending time on a land where probably Lord Buddha, as Gautama Siddhartha, must have been wandering around. And that thought is so wonderful to have. There is that still energy going on with these people. Last but not the least, food was wonderful. My goodness gracious me, you start morning 7 o'clock and, lunch and already, there is excitement for today's dinner. There is already an announcement that, look, gentlemen, we have more special things, So I planned for a litti choka outside, but I cancelled it. Sorry, sir. So imagination has already set in, Kalpana. And thank you so much. I would love to associate, think about a couple of MOUs if they work for you, for the center, and wish all good luck for the wonderful vision of His Holiness Dalai Lama Ji. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Natarajuji. Now I would like to request Professor Ramu Manivannan Ji.
I wish to offer my humble respects at the lotus feet of His Holiness Dalai Lama. And I also would like to express my gratitude and respects to my Guru and teacher, Venerable Samdong Rinpoche. And this last 2 days, and still we are in the second day of this unique but very significant conference of the ancient wisdom, Tibetan ancient wisdom and the Indian tradition. I would like to take from the 3 questions posed by Venerable Samdong Rinpoche and the connectivity to this conference. I look at the questions not only for the present, today, or yesterday and today, but also for the years to come. When I say the years to come, the significance of this institution, the relevance of this institution is about how it can remain relevant with the knowledge that it is able to generate and apply to the reality. This question of this, in fact, the thematic classification of this conference is excellent in terms of nature of reality, the pramana, and as well as the psychology and its application. When Professor Shubhada mentioned about why philosophy is more it's more closer to the psychology, I always ask this question: why is it not closer to politics? Why is it not closer to sociology as well? And that's where the reality of the human societies and the human existence itself rests. So with these questions, I do feel like the questions like consciousness, mind, and knowledge, I strongly believe, and I also practice, both in observation in my personal life, as well as walking along this path, the consciousness of the birds, the animals, the plants, the humans, and the nature. I think somewhere along the way that we also communicate our consciousness, integrate the consciousness of all these elements in the universe. And how realistic we are about integrating this awareness of the, for instance, when we are talking about this consciousness of human consciousness, we talk in philosophy more about human consciousness. But there is a consciousness to the birds, there's a consciousness to the plant, there's a consciousness to the animals. And they are equally or probably more influential, more interactive with the world and with us. So this reciprocation with the existence, I think this is what distinguishes even about, if I may say so, with the little knowledge that Buddha's, the 6 years of wandering, and then the identification of the 49 days in Bodhgaya, of the wandering for 6 years and the identification. This identification is very important. And this, the most important message I would like to take from here is the identification of this institution with the outer world. This is one important thing. And another thing is that, like, there's a very fascinating note that has been shared by this, the proceedings in this house is that, like the neuroscience and meditation, we have to be futuristic. We have to be with the past. We have to be in the present. We also have to be with the future. I think the neuroscience, I have followed this meditation and the neuroscience for quite some time. That I understand that, like, even the astronauts would go into the space, and they do observe with the meditation and the training in practice of breathing exercises and meditation. It has had a great impact. There are a lot of references to this point that I'm making with the Scientific American. Over a few decades they have been doing this research. I want this institution to follow that as a futuristic thing. By remembering the history, by going with the history, we also have to travel into the future. So that's the connection. The harmony exists between this, the past, present, and the future. And one other aspect is that about when we are talking about the Tibetan and the ancient Indian wisdom, I also would like to say in a very humble way is that in the Indian wisdom, with all my respects for the Sanskrit and the knowledge system of the Tibetan, Sanskrit and other knowledge, there are many traditions in this country. For instance, in the South had also had the huge influence of Buddhism. And the Buddhism and Jainism, they've all been kind of like the hidden sides of the, sides are hidden, the history is hidden. So when you go back to see there's the tradition of the wandering monks in the South called as the Siddhas. They're called in Tamil or they're called in Kannada and the other Telugu and other languages that Siddhas. So the Siddha is a very huge tradition of the monks, wandering monks. They followed the naturalist world. So I want us also to open the edges of our offering to this kind of opening the pages to the other traditions in India as well. And I have really been enjoying my presence here. I want to be really grateful to all the teachers and scholars and everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Ramuji. Now I request Professor Sudarshan Iyengar ji.
नमस्कार. सबसे पहले तो मैं इस संस्था के निदेशक की अनुकंपा जो हुई है उसके लिए आभारी हूँ. हिंदी में बोल रहा हूँ क्योंकि किसी को तो हिंदी में भी बोलना चाहिए. तो परंपरा तो जिनकी अमृत दृष्टि मुझ पर रही है हमेशा, वो हमारे आदरणीय समदोंग रिनपोचे जी ने भी हिंदी में ही बात की. तो मेरे लिए एक तरह से बहुत ही नया है. मैं फ़िलॉसफ़ी का विद्यार्थी नहीं रहा हूँ. फ़िलॉसफ़ी में मेरी कोई दखल नहीं है, पर चीज़ों को मैं जोड़ पाया कि यहाँ की जो 7 थीम है उसमें सबसे जो पहला जो विषय था कि क्या ये हम कर सकते हैं, इसकी ज़रूरत है, जो इसका टॉपिक है कि भाई आज की दुनिया में इन दर्शनों की प्रस्तुतता या रेलेवेंस क्या है. और जैसे जैसे मैं चर्चाएं सुनता गया वैसे वैसे मुझे लगा कि बुद्धि के स्तर पर बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है और समझ में आ रहा है कि किस तरह से स्वानुशासन जो है किए बिना ये हो नहीं सकता। इसीलिए मुझे लगा कि ये बात हमको ज़्यादा गहराई तक जानी चाहिए। परम पावन जी का जीवन का चौथा कार्य ये बता रहे हैं वो कि मुझे ये दुनिया तक पहुंचाना है इस विजडम को। तो ये काम मैं समझता हूँ कि परम पावन जी ने दुनिया में आज तक पूरी ज़िंदगी किया है, पर और भी करना बाकी है। तो हमको कह रहे हैं कि भाई अब तुम लोग करो, मुझसे तो हुआ है, तो ये एक काम बाकी है। और 3 सवाल जो आदरणीय रिनपोचे जी ने पूछ लिए कि प्रस्तुत है, तो मैं नहीं समझता हूँ कि कोई ये सवाल खड़ा कर सकता है। वो इसीलिए प्रस्तुत है क्योंकि दुनिया और मानवता जिस ओर जा रही है उसके पास एक बड़ा खतरा ये है कि उसको मैं अर्थशास्त्र का विद्यार्थी हूँ, इसीलिए मैं कहता हूँ कि टेक्नो इकोनॉमिक डिटर्मिनिज्म जो है वो इतना खतरनाक है कि आप सबको पकड़ लेगा। इसीलिए परम पावन जी अगर कह रहे हैं कि मैं आधुनिक विज्ञान और बुद्ध विज्ञान या एंशिएंट हिंदू विज्ञान के साथ कैसे सामंजस्य बैठ सकता है उसकी खोज करनी चाहिए, तो उसमें मुझे लगता है कहीं पर ये जो पूरा दर्शन है, इस दर्शन में भौतिक विकास की मर्यादाएं बहुत पक्के तरह से की गई हैं। इसीलिए ये इसकी प्रस्तुतता है और इसीलिए हमको ये करना चाहिए। तो इसलिए मैं तो बहुत कुछ सीखा, मैंने पहली बार ये चीज़ें पढ़ी। मैं तो गांधी पढ़ता समझने की कोशिश करता हूँ और मुझे गांधी का स्वराज जो है इसी में दिखाई दे रहा है, इतना दर्शन गहरा है। गांधी ने कहा नहीं है पर वो स्वराज की बात करते हैं, और वो स्वराज तो अपने ऊपर ही शासन का स्वराज है। तो ये सारा दर्शन जो है वो ही कर रहा है कि आपकी खुद की अंदर की आपकी खोज क्या है, उस सत्य की खोज क्या है, ये बात हमको आम लोगों तक पहुंचानी चाहिए। दूसरी बात यह है कि अब जैसे जैसे हम आगे जाएंगे तो पहला प्रयास है, जैसे मुझे लगा कि हम आगे जा कर के बात कर सकते हैं जो जिन पर जैन धर्म, बुद्ध धर्म, हिंदू धर्म सब में चर्चाएं हुई हैं कि आर्थिक आजीविका क्या हो सकती है। तो हम लोग सम्मा आजीवा पर क्यों चर्चा नहीं करेंगे? होना चाहिए। सम्मा आजीवा बहुत बड़ा अपने आप में एक फिलोसॉफिकल कॉन्सेप्ट है, कैसे जिएंगे। जैन में भी जो है अणुव्रत हैं, उन अणुव्रतों का पालन क्यों नहीं होना चाहिए। और जैन धर्म में यम नियम जो बने उसको बाद में हमने योग सूत्र में लेकर के उस यम नियम को लिया, तो यम नियम के बारे में क्यों हमको ज़्यादा नहीं जाना चाहिए। तो ये सारी चीज़ें हमको लोगों के पास ले जानी हैं जो ज़्यादा सरलता से जा सकती है। चर्चाएं बहुत गहरी होती जाएंगी, कभी कभी वितंडावाद भी होगा, होने दिया जाए, उसका अलग एक वो एक अलग विभाग है। विद्याओं में, दर्शनों में अंदर और बाहर दो दर्शन, और अपने दर्शन के अंदर भी मतभेद होंगे, विवाद होंगे, पर उसमें से हमको काम ये करना है कि ऐसे कौन से मूल्य निकल के आ रहे हैं जो हम लोगों तक पहुंचाएं, जिनके बारे में लोगों को जागृत करें। तो मुझे लगता है कि ये केंद्र जो है वो इस तरह के सिर्फ विद्वानों का ही नहीं, पर जिन लोगों को जीने में ऐसा अनुभव हुआ है, ऐसे जीने वाले लोगों को भी, उनसे भी कुछ समझना चाहिए। ऐसे लोगों की भी बुलाकर यहाँ पर चर्चा विचारणा हो, इस संस्था में वो आएँ, और सभी प्रकार के, मैं अभी सिर्फ इसको नहीं ला रहा हूँ कि हमको अभी ख्रिस्ती धर्म या इस्लाम के साथ भी काम करना है। परम पावन जी कहते हैं कि कम्युनल हार्मनी बहुत बड़ी चीज़ है और आज सबसे बड़ा संकट उसी का है, पर पहले हम तो ठीक हो लें, पुटिंग आवर हाउस इन ऑर्डर, उसके बाद जो है हम ये ज़रूर करेंगे। तो उस हिसाब से मैं देख रहा हूँ कि बहुत अच्छा एक प्रयास रहा है और मुझे तो व्यक्तिगत तौर पर बहुत ही लाभ हुआ है। मैं चाहता हूँ कि ये मुहिम आगे चले और ये संस्था, ये जो, हाँ, एक अंतिम बात ये कह दूँ कि जो मैं कह रहा था आम लोगों तक जाने का, कुछ कार्यक्रम में लोग जुड़ने चाहिए, कम्युनिटी इंटरफेस के बिना कुछ होता नहीं है। एक ज़माना था जब सारे भिक्षु हैं, साधु हैं, वो चलते रहते थे और अपनी बात समाज में रखते थे, गृहस्थों के पास रखते हुए जाते थे। आजकल हम जरा सीमित हो गए हैं, तो मुझे लगता है कि इसमें हिम्मत नहीं हारनी चाहिए, ये प्रथा फिर से शुरू कर देनी चाहिए। तो हम लोगों को अपने समाज के बीच में जा कर के ये सारी बातें भी रखनी चाहिए, ताकि अभी उनके पास कुछ नहीं है और ये सोशल मीडिया नहीं करने वाला है, ये हमको करना पड़ेगा। तो मुझे लगा कि इस संस्था का एक ध्येय ये भी हो कि कम्युनिटी इंटरफेस हो, कम्युनिटीज़ के साथ कार्यक्रम हो, चाहे वो अपनी खुद की कम्युनिटी हो, दूसरी हो, तो उसमें भी मुझे लगता है कि काफ़ी ताकत है। और परिवर्तन अगर हम जो करना चाहते हैं, और जो बताया कि संभव है, कैसे करेंगे, तो फिर मैंने एक दो जो मुझे सूझ रहा है मैंने आपसे साझा किया। फिर से एक बार आप सभी का धन्यवाद, और बहुत आनंद आया। खाने पीने के मामले में थोड़ा मैं आस्वादी आदमी हूँ, इसीलिए नटराज को अच्छा लगा, तो ठीक ही है। हाँ, आज तो मेरी वजह से उसने कम खाया है। खैर कोई बात नहीं, धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Professor Sudarshan ji. Now I would like to request Professor Shubhada Joshi ji to say a few words, your observation.
Thank you very much once again for giving me the opportunity. It has been always a memorable experience to be here in the institute. I remember the very first conference where His Holiness Dalai Lama ji was present, and special blessings we received from him. He appreciated the presentation, and then the association continued. The association continued even during COVID period online, because this center was very much concerned with value education program, and we had some meetings for value education. And I still consider that value education plays a very important role in the entire educational system. It is not just educating means transforming outwardly, transforming economically. It doesn't mean that we have to have a very prosperous society. Yes, we have to have a prosperous society, but at the same time, the outer development also should go hand in hand with the inner development, which is nowadays called a soft power. So we in India have a very rich tradition of soft power, variety of soft power, and it is for not only for centuries but maybe for millenniums together. We are working in that direction, where transforming human persons into maybe the divine personalities, the divine characters. And soft power, it means that it is a radical change, it is a parivartan. We are faced with a problem, then we are applying praxis, variety of praxis. And the word praxis means that it is not just a practice which brings change overtly, but it means that it is a change from within, and it is as good as liberation. And therefore, Indian philosophies, they play a very vital role in bringing such transformations. We have been saying that we are center of culture, but these days our young generation is becoming more fact-centric and science-centric. There is nothing wrong in becoming fact-centric and science-centric, having inclination towards all outer developments, but at the same time, I think the time also has come to tell our young generation that also what is very important is the inner development along with the outer development. And that is why in our philosophy department we started many such courses like yoga, like Preksha Dhyana in Jaina philosophy, like Vipassana in Buddhist philosophy. And we were telling our students that it is not just information which we receive through education, but it is the formation of the character which is very important part of education. And therefore I think such efforts are very, very important. And especially those who have specialization in modern sciences, technology and all other such important areas, they also are into it, and they are contributing a lot, telling people that the inner development also is very important. That carries more impact rather than a philosophy teacher telling that the inner development carries more importance, because the audience may feel the philosophy professor doesn't know what is the importance of the outer development. So one who is working in the area where outer development is also contributed, and also is telling that, well, now meditate, now sit quiet, now concentrate, think of whatever is the way meditation, that is important. So soft power plays a very important role, and science and technology can be better used for betterment of humanity and not for destruction once all these are also given some orientation into soft power. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Joshi ji. Now I have been asked to give some remarks at the end. So, respected Most Venerable Professor Samten Rinpoche, respected the Director of the Center, Khyentse Trashitsing Rinpoche, and the distinguished scholars. We have, as the scholars have shared their views, we have been having for the last 2 days deliberation on various areas. And I think the way this seminar has been designed is very aptly designed, and also its coordination has been very successful. We talked about different philosophical schools, almost covering all the philosophical schools, except some of the branches. Otherwise, the major philosophical schools are all covered. And then we also covered pramana and logic, which are extremely important, and we have seen how they are related to each other and how they are, they coordinate with the philosophy, and then how the logic and the philosophy are instrumental in bringing psychological kind of transformations. At the end, we have psychology and its application. So the application of science of mind that is very much in practice in Buddhist tradition and Indian tradition in general. So this whole thing has shown that how these philosophical traditions are living traditions, and how this can be helpful and can be practical in our daily life. Ancient India had a very unique tradition of interaction between the philosophical schools, and that developed for centuries, and that was not just simply for decades, but we can see in the texts and treatises how the interactions have taken place. And such intensive and rich interaction has been very much instrumental in advancing further the philosophical schools of all the philosophical schools. And so this we can see as a samvada. As Professor Mishraji on the first day said that assimilation, and we can see the assimilations, exchange and adaptations, adoptions and things like that in the course of such a rich interaction. So this had been the tradition of ancient India, and then Buddhism, so far as Buddhism is concerned, Buddhism went to Tibet and many other countries, but in Tibet it went in the fullest sense in terms of the depth and the height of the philosophical studies and the varieties of different disciplines, and that went to Tibet. And also we can see the textual transmissions that took place in Tibet with a very high level of quality. And then we can see, along with that textual transmission, we can see the transmission of knowledge. And associated with the textual transmission and transmission of knowledge, we can see the transmission of spirituality. So this whole combination of text, knowledge and spirituality, in a sense, the entire tradition of Nalanda, Vikramasila and Takshashila and other great centers of learning, Buddhist centers of learning, went to Tibet. So many think that Buddhism went to Tibet, but if we look into more details, then we can see that not just Buddhism, but also many different traditions of Vidyas went to Tibet. The Kala and the Chanda and the Kavya, Vyakarana and many traditions went to Tibet. And we can see, like, for example, the Vyakarana, the Vyakaranas. About 5 Vyakarana traditions went to Tibet. And among them, the Chandra Vyakaran is very less heard in India, and Manjushri Vyakaran is almost unheard in Indian Vyakaran scholars circle. So these are not only brought to Tibet, but they are translated into Tibetan language and they are taught in various monastic institutions. So these, as I was referring to the very rich interaction of the tradition of interaction that we call samvada, the Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies, way back in 2007-8, we started a project calling Revival of the ancient Indian tradition of samvada. So we requested His Holiness to inaugurate that, and we started that, and in which we invited scholars from Vedanta, Vaisheshika, Nyaya, and Mimamsa, and Jaina, and of course, Buddhist scholars. So His Holiness, in the inaugural speech, he said that we have had very intensive and rich interaction among ourselves for centuries in India, which enriched all the philosophical schools. But now we have in front of us new challenges. New challenges not in the sense of antagonistic perspective, but new challenges to explore, that new questions are brought in front of us from science and Western philosophy. So these are the areas that we should contemplate and we should face and we should try to explore in these areas. So this is what His Holiness said on that occasion. So when we look into the Indian civilization, we can see that dharma, artha, kama, moksha, the entire Indian civilization and all the philosophical schools are founded on this principle of, dharma, artha, kama, moksha principles. If we see, then the dharma and moksha, these are the two major things, and artha and kama. So the tatra artha kamo tu abhyodaya and then nitanta shreyasa nishreyasaha. Artha kama are the abhyudaya, but when it comes to the artha and kama simply associated with this ehik jivana, this life, then it is no more associated with the dharma. But when it is induced or driven by dharma, then it is abhyudaya, not only with the higher status of this life in genuine sense, and also high status abhyudaya in the next life as well. But when the artha, kama are all driven by dharma, then this can become instrumental for moksha. So therefore, the moksha is a kind of element, that aspect that all the philosophical schools cover in India. And then we had so all these sophisticated philosophical school systems, then we have the Nyaya and Pramana, and that we have been discussing for the last 2 days, particularly since yesterday afternoon and this morning. Most of the presentations were on Nyaya and Pramana. So we can see that how richly developed Pramana system, the logic system and epistemological systems were there in India, in all the schools. And these were a result of interaction among the schools, as Kishitubden Chimbala was referring this morning about the Puru Mimamsa and his response to Buddhism and things like that. So we have still lots of areas to address and work further in collaboration with the scholars of different schools. So Nyaya and Pramana, when we look at it, for the physical world, we see that many scientific instruments were needed to be developed to see the micro level physical objects. They developed microscopic instruments, and to see the far away distant objects, they developed space telescopes like the latest ones, James Webb telescopes and things like that. So these are the extension of our faculties. Similarly, to look into our tattva jnana, inner world, and also to look into the nature of reality, we need to have a further extension of our faculties, that is through logic and epistemology. And logic is primarily developed to cultivate or to generate pramana, authentic cognition. So these are the systems that Indian traditions developed in India for the proper realization or cognition of the subtle objects, and particularly the tattvic objects. And what is the purpose of this whole philosophy and the development of Nyaya and Pramana? The purpose of the philosophical system, the development of philosophical system is tattva jnana, and the tattva jnana is for mukti and for liberation. So we can say, like, I'm going to quote the shloka from Master Nagarjuna's the Mool Madhyamika Karika, that karma klesha khyayat mokshaha karma klesha vikalpataha te prapanchad prapanchastu shunyatayam nirudhyate. So through the elimination of karma and affliction, there is a nirvana. Karma affliction come from a conceptual thought. These come from mental fabrication. Mental fabrication ceases through emptiness. So now here the karma klesha, why we are interested in the sophisticated psychological system is to understand, basically we do not want suffering, but want to attain eternal or the happiness and peace. So for that we need to understand our mental system and how this the afflictive mental mind and the destructive mind can be reduced, can be minimized, can be eliminated. These can be eliminated through the training of mind and by eliminating the destructive mind through the realization of Tattva-jnana. So we have in our Indian system, the analysis of atom is found in most of the philosophical schools, but our analysis of the atom and understanding the reality of atom is not to just simply confined to seek the knowledge about atom itself, but our purpose of understanding the atom is to understand the world, how we perceive the object, how we perceive the material object. And through understanding the nature of reality of atom, then we understand the material world. And to understand the world, these are all these attempts are made to understand the world and to realize the reality of the world and to change our perception of the world and to change the perception, the perspective of the world. Because when we learn darshana, the reality of the nature, then we see when we realize it or when we understand it, then we change our drishti. By studying darshana, then we develop a certain drishti by which our perception and our perspective changes, how we look at the world. And by having that, developing that kind of drishti, then we change our reaction towards the world. And then by that we change our behavior, and then by that we elevate our spiritual status. So this is how, in nutshell, why we do philosophy in India and Tibetan tradition, and why we are interested in developing logic system and the epistemological system. Because we, in epistemological system, pramana, we need something that is authentic, and in order to get the authentic knowledge of the object, we need to reach there. And in order to reach to the to obtain authentic knowledge, we need a device or a medium or instrument through which we can attain that the authentic the cognition without any avisambadak, without a deceptive kind of characteristic. So so this is how, what we have been discussing for the last 2 days, and all the scholars have deliberated very meticulously, and we are very happy that all the papers and the presentations have very well presented and very thoughtfully they have delved into the depth of the subjects we have requested them to deliver. So now we have and this is the first Indian National Conference organized by the Center of Indian and Tibetan Wisdom, His Holiness the Dalai Lama Centre for Indian and Tibetan Wisdom. So this is a very historic event. And as Venerable Samten Rinpoche has raised some questions in the beginning, I think this center is not only just relevant, but it is the need of the time. And therefore, as we have been seeing that how much our tradition, the Indian tradition, Indian philosophical tradition, Indian psychological tradition, Indian epistemological tradition, Indian logic tradition, how these are relevant and how these can contribute to the world, to the present world. These are not some kind of antiquities that are kept to be kept in the museum, but they are the relevant traditions and things that need to be learned and disseminated among the members of the society, particularly to the youngsters. So, as an institute of higher learning, it has two kind of approaches. Of course, we will have teachers who will be training the youngsters and whoever is willing to learn about the ancient tradition. We will certainly be providing, the center will certainly be providing guidance and education. And that is one aspect of the center. The another aspect, which is more important, is to do research in this area. That there are a few kinds of avenues of research that can be done by this center. One is to have exchange within ourselves, within our, the philosophical traditions, Indian philosophical traditions, as this morning, Kisha Thubten Jambala has said that Kumar Ril's, rebuttal or his refutation of Buddhist Nyaya, there are many areas which are to be addressed. And I remember that it was way back, more than 10 years back, in India there is a philosophical congregation. Every year there is a Indian philosophical congregation in which one scholar is asked to speak on one philosophical school. And it was in 2007 or 8, I don't remember exactly, but I was asked to speak on Buddhist philosophy. And then I thought that I should write on the current Buddhist philosophical study in India. So then I picked up some of the philosophers, the modern philosophers, about whom this morning, Kishla, you were there, who was teaching in Oxford, right? What? Yeah, Matila, yes. Matila, and then Professor T.R.V. Murthy and some of the professors, leading professors of that time. So I thought to pick up these few of these professors. But then it was going to be a very large kind of area to cover. So then I just confined myself to Professor T.R.V. Murthy ji. So Professor T.R.P. Murthy ji has written really a very very important book on central philosophy of Buddhism, and that became very popular in the West and was studied almost in all the departments, Western universities where Buddhist departments, Buddhist studies departments existed. So I always used to have some questions about how he used to read Buddhist philosophy. And then I again went through the book and then found that everything was so nicely presented, except one thing that I found, that when it comes to the nature of the emptiness, reality, or the tattva, then he refers it as some kind of absolute entity, the emptiness as absolute entity. And then when he interprets the 5 qualities of the tattva, then he interprets it from the Vedantin point of view. So I wrote on that and then deliberated on that topic. It was in Tirupati, and there were many Vedantin and Sankhya and scholars from different schools were there. After I finished the talk, then some of the scholars came to me, particularly with some young scholars, and they said that we are very happy that you wrote, you explained or you reacted on Professor Murthy's the book, his philosophy and his idea about the emptiness. Otherwise, we were thinking that emptiness and Brahma Tattva are same, because he has narrated in a very similar manner. So today we are very happy that to know that these are 2 very different kind of the tattvas that are explained. The Buddhism and the Madhyamika has a very different the approach of tattva and the tattva jnana, whereas Vedantin has a very different approach to tattva and tattva jnana. So this is so like that we can have interaction within ourselves, within the Indian philosophical school. We can we can revive this rich tradition of interaction. As Professor Joshi ji was speaking, we had a number of the dialogue program among the Indian in the name of revival of the ancient Samvada of Indian tradition. So the last was done in 2018 when we had an international conference on mind in the Indian philosophical schools and modern science, in which many of you have attended, and some scientists from the United States and Europe were also present to make their, to put their views. So these are some of the deliberations, and then not only just a deliberation, but also we should work and move further. And so now our ancient interaction and the samvada went well, and also as a result we can see the rich philosophical traditions. And now we have in front of us, as His Holiness has mentioned, that we have in front of us science and Western philosophy. So we should include them also in our course of interaction, and see that how the wisdom of humanity can be advanced further. So the higher institutes must be looking forward to how we can advance the frontiers of the knowledge system, and then how we can, through that, how we can bring more kind of understanding in our society, and then make our the members of the society more rich in terms of their knowledge, and then how these such knowledges can be practiced and transform their life. And transformation is the final kind of goal of such deliberations. So therefore, it should not be just confined to the knowledge system, but also there should be, as we have done in the conference, 2-day conference, how this can be brought to the level of a transformation. This should be brought in the school, this should be brought in among the youngsters, and this should be brought in economy, politics, and many other areas, so that we can bring some changes, positive changes in the society. So, and so, the center can provide a platform for samvada of ancient, the schools, as well as the various modern disciplines, including science. So with this, I would like to, thank on behalf of, not on behalf of the organizer, but on behalf of all the participants, we would like to thank Professor Samten Rinpoche and the Venerable Khyentse Tashi Tsering Rinpoche, the director of the institute, and Kongwe Temba Tsering La, and Mr. Chimi Ringzela, and the other, the Pemba Dorjela, and all the associated staff and the members of Ganden Potang and the Center for the Dalai Lama Centre for Tibetan and Indian Wisdom. So I thank you all for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. On behalf of the Dalai Lama Centre for Tibetan and Indian Ancient Wisdom, and all the staffs, I would like to say thank you from my bottom of my heart, all the participants. These 2 days, events, and also the people who participated. When we first, Professor Samten Rinpoche advised us to organize some seminars, and then with the help of Dr. Pemba Dorje, we discussed. And those last, I think October, November, I was very nervous how we are going to organize this, and who are going to come. And because of His Holiness Dalai Lama's blessings, and also Professor Samten Rinpoche's guidance, and your dedication, these last 2 days' activities are extremely meaningful, useful, and helpful for the humanity, I think, in the future, and also for these centers to move forward, particularly from the main activities from this center will be providing education. And the subject that we have, papers that you have read and discussed, are very, very profound and rich. And for thousands of years, many great thinkers, realized beings, practitioners have, went through again and again and again. And through this genuine, genuine sort of yearning to want to know these profound subjects in order to serve humanity. I think that is their main sort of goal, to serve the humanity, not just intellectually rich their mind, not just intellectually to have dialogue between two different schools of thoughts, but through that to serve the humanity. And the center which is now developing physically, as well as we are slowly developing the education materials and so forth. Our yesterday's and today's, these topics are extremely, relevant, and these are the main topics that we are going to share with the people who come to the center. Our current challenge is how to deliver these profound, rich topics to the modern, the 21st century people, particularly younger people. How to make more relevant to these topics to the 21st century people. And your presentations and the papers, these will be extremely helpful for our future for the center. So I would like to say thank you for all the people who come here and to have written the paper, read the paper, and also there are other peoples like Dr. Pampatoji, who is one of the main person to send the invitations and also collect the papers and all these things. And also we have other people who have been working behind the scene, like the people who are, there are four or five people came from all the way down Dharamsala to down here, to make the video and what you call the online live streaming and so on and so forth. They are extremely kind and helpful. Also, this venue, Buddha Heritage Resort, when I first saw this and approached the manager, I was a little bit nervous how it's going to work. But they are extremely helpful, very, very generous, very, very, upcoming. Whatever we ask, they come and help us. Now I'd like to thank to them too. And now in Tibetan, there is this statement saying, Thongmar Gyawa, Pardo Gyawa, Tamar Gyawa. It is also very much related to the mental training. And Thongmar Gyawa, we all come here with the positive, virtuous intention to share your knowledge, to bring here, to share. And that is the virtuous thoughts, virtuous intention. And the last 2 days, all the subjects that we have discussed are the virtuous subjects. And now is the last, which is the dedication. And all your hard works, and some of you come from long distance, all your hard works and coming here and participating, these are the virtuous activities, and all these virtuous activities bring together, collect together, we will dedicate to first and foremost for the peaceful world, which is currently really needed. And also, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, there are many great people, who want to make this world more peaceful. All those great teachers have a long life, and their wishes to be fulfilled. And then, this is the first seminar organized by this center, and I would like to organize more these kind of seminars, and I really hope, and from my heart I would like to request you to think in the future to have your contributions coming to the when we organize. We will send you invitations to come to the seminars and all other activities, and your participation is extremely, what you call helpful for us to move forward this center. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we have a refreshment over there. So I request all the participants to have a refreshment. Then we proceed to the hotel. Thank you so much.